여러분 안녕하세요. 대한민국 영어 감잡기 프로젝트 데미안과 함께하는 너쉬영북 시간입니다. 이번 시간은 33강 리딩입니다. 93쪽 마지막 문단부터 하겠습니다. 자, 읽습니다. During those weeks, I had begun to read a book that made a more lasting impression on me than anything I had read before. Even later in life, I have rarely experienced a book more intensely, except perhaps Nietzsche. It was a volume of novels containing letters and aphorisms of which I understood only a few, but which nevertheless held an inexpressible attraction for me. One of the aphorisms occurred to me now, and I wrote it under the picture, "Fate and temperament are two words for one and the same concept." That was clear to me now. I often caught sight of the girl I called Beatrice, but I felt no emotion during these encounters, only a gentle harmony, a presentiment. You and I are linked, but not you, only your picture. You are a part of my fate. My longing for Max Demian overwhelmed me again. I had had no news of him for years. Once I had met him during a vacation. I realized now that I suppressed this brief encounter in my notes, and I realized that it was done out of vanity and shame. I have to make up for it. Thus, during one of my holidays, I strolled through my hometown, wearing the blasé, always the slightly weary expression of my bar-crawling days, peering into the same old, despised faces of the Philistines. I saw my former friend walking toward me. I had hardly seen him when I flinched. At the same moment, I could not help thinking of Franz Cromer. If only Demian had really forgotten that episode. It was so unpleasant to be obligated to him. It was actually a silly children's story, but an obligation nonetheless. He appeared to wait. Would I greet him? When I did so as casually as possible, he stretched out his hand. Yes, that was his grip, as firm, warm and cool, and virile as ever. He scrutinized my face and said, "You've grown, Sinclair." He himself seemed quite the same, as old or as young as ever. He joined me and we took a walk, but talked of only inconsequential matters. It occurred to me that I had written him several times without getting a reply. I hoped that he'd forgotten that too, those stupid letters. He did not mention them. At that time, I had not yet met Beatrice, and there was no portrait. I was still in the midst of my drunken period. At the outskirts of a town, I asked him to join me for a glass of wine, and he did so. At once, I made a big show of ordering a whole bottle, filled his glass, clicked mine with his, and displayed my great familiarity with student drinking customs by downing the first glass in one swallow. "You spend a lot of time in bars, do you?" he asked. "Well, yes," I replied. "What else is there to do? In the end, it's more fun than anything else." "You think?" "Maybe so. One part of it is, of course, very fine, the intoxication, the bacchanalian element. But I think most people that frequent bars have lost that entirely. It seems to me that going to bars is something genuinely Philistine. Yes, for one night with burning torches, a real wild drunk. But again and again, one little glass after the other. I wonder whether that's the real thing or not. Can you see Faust sitting night after night, stooped over the bar?" I took a swallow and looked at him with hostility. "Well, not everybody's Faust," I said curtly. He looked at me somewhat taken aback. Then he laughed at me in his old lively and superior fashion. Well, let's not fight over it. In any case, the life of a drunk is presumably livelier than that of the ordinary well-behaved citizen. And then I read that once somewhere, the life of a hedonist is the best preparation for becoming a mystic. People like St. Augustine are always the ones that become visionaries. He too was first a sensualist and man of the world. I distrusted him and didn't want him to gain the upper hand under any circumstance. So I said superciliously, well, everybody to his own taste. As for me, I have no ambition to become a visionary or anything of the sort. Demian gave me a brief, shrewd look out of half-closed eyes. My dear Sinclair, he said slowly, I didn't intend to tell you anything disagreeable. Besides, neither of us knows why you happen to be drinking wine at this moment. That which is within you and directs your life knows already. It's good to realize that within us there is someone who knows everything, wills everything, does everything better than we ourselves. But, excuse me, I must go home. We exchanged brief goodbyes. I stayed on moodily and finished the bottle. When I wanted to leave, I discovered that Demian had paid the bill, which put me in an even worse humor. 조금 오늘은 길었죠? 자, 오늘 여기까지 하겠습니다. 오늘 영상이 여러분이 영어의 감을 잡는 데 도움이 되었다면 구독, 좋아요로 꼭 알려주세요. 특히 여기까지 오셨는데 함께 하셔놓고 아직 구독하시지 않은 분들 꼭 구독해주세요. 더 좋은 영상을 만드는 데 큰 힘이 될 것입니다. 여러분 감사합니다.